Hello everyone, this is TracerPixel128, and today we're going to take a look at my video game collection. We're going to go over the consoles I have, the specifications, the games I own, as well as some extra stuff I also have. Starting with, this is the very first console I ever got, the Game Boy Advance SP. This was originally released in 2003 as an updated model to the original Game Boy Advance released in 2001. For specifications, it has a 2.9-inch or 73.66mm TFT color LCD with a resolution of 240 by 160. Its main CPU is a 32-bit ARM7 clocked at 16.78 MHz. Its coprocessor is an 8-bit Sharp LR35902 clocked at either 8 or 4 MHz based on the 8088. Actually, no, it's based on the Z80, and it's meant for backwards compatibility with original Game Boy and Game Boy Color games. For RAM, it has 32 plus 96 kilobytes of VRAM and 256 kilobytes of DRAM. Here's the screen. This is the button for the backlight. I believe this is the AGS 101 model, because it has a backlight. D-pad, A and B buttons, speaker, start and select, the indicator for when it's charging, and for the power. Here are the buttons. And on the back, this is power and the link cable. I believe this connector was also used for headphones, which was an optional accessory. And behind here is the battery, the removable battery, and here's the cartridge slot. And it still turns on. Very bright, and you can increase the brightness. That's the Game Boy Advance. I never really had much games for this. The only cartridge I have is this. This is a Game Boy Advance Video SpongeBob SquarePants Volume 2 cartridge that I think I remember getting this at Walmart sometime around 2008 when they had a clearance bin full of Game Boy games. I got this from Toys R Us back in early 2007, which is odd considering that the DS Lite was already out by that point, but I ended up getting the Game Boy instead. I had other games for this. I had Super Mario World, as well as Cats 2. I didn't really have many games for it, but that's all I had for this. The next console I got is the Leapster. This is the second revision of the original Leapster. This was originally released in 2003, while this revision came out in 2005. For specifications, its CPU is an Arctangent A5, clocked at 96 MHz, has 2 MB of RAM, a resolution of 160 by 160, which is lower than that of the Game Boy Advance. The GPU is a custom 4 MB chip from ATI, and for software, it was made using Macromedia Flash MX2004. And it runs on Flash Player. There's a cartridge slot on the top. This is for an optional AC adapter. Here's the touch screen and its stylus. It predates the DS by a year, but it's not the first touchscreen console by any means. Prior to this, there was the Tiger Electronics Gamecom, which came out in 1997. It's not the first touchscreen handheld by any means, but it was one of the first. You have home, hint, and pause buttons, D-pad, A and B buttons, power, speaker. Right here is for adjusting the contrast and volume buttons. And I think it's just for adjusting the backlight. And here's headphone jack. And on the back, you open it using a coin, and it takes 4 AA batteries. This is Leapster. I got this for Christmas back in 2007, and it's pretty well used. As for the games I had for it, let me show you those. The games I got with this system back in Christmas 2007 were Number Raiders, which is kind of like Space Invaders, but it's an educational version of Space Invaders. Kind of. It's a shmup that also has math in it. And then I also got SpongeBob SquarePants Through the Wormhole. As you could tell, I was a huge SpongeBob fan when I was younger. Then later on, I got I Spy Challenger, which is based on the I Spy books. And then I got the other SpongeBob game for it, SpongeBob SquarePants Saves the Day. Yeah, this was my second handheld. I only really got this because some of my friends in my old homeschool group had one. I wanted one even though I already had the Game Boy, but this is what I used for a couple of years until I upgraded to what I'm about to show next. One fun fact I forgot to mention about this console is if you turn it on and hold down all the buttons, a diagnostic screen shows up. I can't demonstrate that because there's no batteries, but you can take a look at it on cutting room floor. For Christmas 2009, I got this. This is the DSi. I originally wanted to get a DSi, but I ended up getting a DSi. For specs, this has two CPUs. One is an ARM9 clocked at 133 megahertz, and its second CPU is an ARM7 clocked at 33 megahertz, which is a lot faster than the than the original DS. It has 16 megabytes of RAM. It has dual 3.25-inch or 83 millimeters TFT LCD screens with a resolution of 256 by 192. Its camera resolution is at 640 by 480 with 0.3 megapixels. There's an upgrade to the DS Lite, of course. It has a camera on the front and a camera on the back. Here's the touchscreen, D-pad, power button, start and select, A, B, X, and Y buttons, stylus, of course. Everyone knows about the DS. Pretty much every single person I knew had one. Here's the left and right buttons, charge port, card slot. That's where you can put an optional lanyard, as well as a headphone jack. This has also been beaten up. It's seen better days, but it still works pretty well. I use this a lot. And I also got a few games for it too. I got Drawn to Life SpongeBob SquarePants Edition because, of course, I was a huge SpongeBob fan when I was younger, and I loved to draw. There's the game card and the manual. Yeah. Never played the original Drawn to Life or its sequel, but I have played the SpongeBob one and I enjoyed it. In fact, that's one thing why I kept using this DSi for so long is because of Flipnote Studio, if anybody remembers that. It's one of the reasons why I got into animating. And I'm glad that there's a community for it still, and they even did a new website and everything, which is nice. Another game I have is Penguins of Madagascar. Oh, I forgot. I think I mentioned I got this when I got the system in 2009. I got this when it was on clearance at a Toys R Us in 2011. It's a pretty fun puzzle game, and it's based on the Penguins of Madagascar cartoon that Nickelodeon used to air. There's the manual and the game itself. Pretty fun. I love puzzle games, and I love the Penguins of Madagascar. Next game I got was Dagadar, based on Toyline. I got this from Walmart for about 20 bucks. A little bit of a story. I had gotten a book for Christmas I didn't like, so I took it back and got a gift card and used it on this. It's a racing game, but it was also kind of hard, but I enjoyed it. Probably not the best game. Probably not one of the best games, but I was 11. I was young. And the most recent addition to my collection, this is Kim Possible Communicator. Based on the Disney Channel cartoon. I paid 10 bucks for this at a local game store near where I used to live. This is not the original case for it. No manual, but it does have the game. I played a little bit of this, and it was actually pretty fun. I know there were other Kim Possible games, especially for the DS. Yeah. These are all the DS games I have, as well as my DSi. I had thought about taking pictures and comparing it, but that'll probably be for another video. Now, on to the home consoles I have. The next console I have is the Wii. This, of course, does not need an introduction. It's one of the best-selling consoles of all time. Everyone has one, of course. But yeah, these are... But what we're going to talk about, of course, is the specifications. It has a IBM Broadway, which is based on the PowerPC 750CL, which is a variant of the PowerPC G3, famously used in the iMac G3 and the PowerMac G3. Apple used it back then. Clocked at 729 megahertz. It's a lot powerful than the Gecko CPU that was in the GameCube, which is what this is based on, of course. Its GPU is an ATI Hollywood, clocked at 253 megahertz. It has 24 megabytes of T1 SRAM and 64 megabytes of GDDR3 SD RAM for the chipset. It has an internal memory of 512 megabytes, but I have a 1 gigabyte SD card in here. There was a 2 gigabyte, but I put that in my DSi. It has a video output of 480i, composite, and component, and it runs a custom firmware. Of course. Power button, reset. And behind this little door here is the SD card slot and the sync button for syncing Wiimotes. Eject button, here's the drive. Here's at the back, here are 2 USB ports, fan, power, video, sensor bar. And on the top, of course, is all the GameCube stuff. You have the controller ports and the memory card slots. And on the bottom is another fan, and I think this is for a CMOS battery to keep the date and time. If you're wondering what this label is on here for, why I named it Blonde, well, you see, I'm a fan of this series called Neptunia, and in the games, there was a character named Blonde who represents the Wii. That's why I named it after her. Yeah. I name my consoles after the CPUs from Neptunia because I'm weird. But yeah, this is the Wii, of course. And I'm going to show you all the games I have. Starting with everyone that pretty much everyone is familiar with, Wii Sports. This is not the original case for it. It's lost long ago. It's a bit of a story where our original copy of Wii Sports got scratched up, so we contacted Nintendo and they sent us a replacement copy years ago, but here it is. I'm pretty sure everyone probably has at least one copy of Wii Sports in their collection. And the next is Link's Crossbow Training. Have to admit, this is one of the only Zelda games I ever played, even though it's a spin-off and it's based on Twilight Princess. This, of course, came packaged with the Zapper disc and the manual. Similar packaging to what Wii Sports, of course, originally came with. This is all in random order, by the way, because of how I arranged the games. Next is Big Brain Academy Wii Degree. Had a lot of fun playing this when I was younger. The game in the manual. Pretty fun game. Got a lot of hours in that one. Next one is, oh, I forgot I got this back in 2007. Yeah, we got that back in 2008. I think we got this from Best Buy, I believe. And this I got for Christmas in 2010. Family Party 30 Great Games. Published by D3 Publisher, but if any of my viewers are Neptunia fans, you may recognize Tamsoft. Us Neptunia fans know them for some of the spin-offs they did for Neptunia, like Mega Tag Mention, Blonde plus Neptune vs. Zombies, Neptunia U Action Unleashed, the Senran Kagura crossover, just to name a few. Interesting how they went from stuff like this, which is essentially shovelware, to making Neptunia spin-offs. There's the disc and the manual. I actually kind of enjoyed it, even though it's clearly obvious that it's shovelware, but that's okay. Oh, here is something that's definitely shovelware. Game Party 3! Published by WB Games. Yeah, the same people who published the Lego games published this one. Yeah. I remember the avatars in this game were a blatant ripoff of the original Xbox 360 avatars. Game in the manual. It's okay. It's not the best game on the system, but what I'm about to show you is one of the best games on the system. Metroid Prime Trilogy. I got this at a GameStop back in 2016. I got pretty lucky. This is just the game itself, no manual. Yeah. Of course, it has the trilogy on it. They recently re-released the original Metroid Prime, or they did a remaster for the Switch. Might pick that up, but I have a backlog of games. Those are really awesome games, of course. Next game I have is Create. I remember seeing commercials for this back then. Of course, it's an EA game, but it's not DLC or microtransaction heavy like a lot of their other titles. There's the manual. There's an ad for My Sim Sky Heroes. Anybody remember the My Sim series? They kept making them and then it kind of faded away. I remember reading somewhere that it was the agent one, where Faith Connors from Mirror's Edge was supposed to be in it. Yeah. It's actually a pretty good game. If you love being creative and have an imagination, I recommend it. I also paid $10 for that one at a local game store. Next is the Angry Birds Trilogy. I got it at the same GameStop I got Metroid Prime Trilogy from. I remember wanting this when it came out. It's a later Wii title. It was released in 2013 when the Wii U was already out. It's got this. It's not really a manual, but... And here's the game. It just has the original Angry Birds, Seasons, and Rio. Space is not on here. It plays very similarly to the Roku version of Angry Birds. Yes, there was a port of Angry Birds for the Roku. Play at a friend's house years ago. Pretty fun if you're an Angry Birds fan. I used to be a huge Angry Birds fan, but not so much anymore. But very interesting that they are now owned by Sega recently, which that's interesting. So Angry Birds is now a Sega franchise. Yeah. And next one I got is definitely not a James Bond movie. I don't know why I put this in here, but it's actually a copy of Wii Fit. I just put this in here. I didn't bother taking the cover out, but this is a loose copy of Wii Fit I got from a lady in my old homeschool group, but she was giving it away along with the balance board, but I don't have the balance board with me. I just have the game, so yeah. I don't know why I put that in that case. And the next is a game that unfortunately does not work, and that is SpongeBob SquarePants Creature from the Krusty Krab. I got this from Toys R Us back in 2007 because I was a huge fan of SpongeBob. There's the game. Doesn't work anymore. Might have to get it resurfaced. There's a game shop near where I live now, so might take it there. And this is the Nick Games Guide. Probably remember seeing me go through this in old stream I did, celebrating 90 subs, but I got something special planned for my current subscriber milestone. I vaguely remember playing this and I thought it was so hard. I don't know, I guess I just wasn't really used to motion controls. And finally is Wii Play. I have memories of this. I remember watching my mom play the Racing Cows game on it. Yeah. I remember, the shooting minigame. We would play that with the zapper. And the tanks game, and pretty fun. Just the game and the manual. Nothing much else to say about it, but that is all my Wii games, and that's my phone. I was using that for reference for the specs. So that is my Wii. Now on to the next system. The next system I have is the Switch. I put this in order when I got them. Not by order of release date. I got this from Best Buy back in February 2020. This is the one with the gray Joy-Cons. Just took it out of its dock for now. Analog sticks, buttons. So the D-pad has directional buttons, there's triggers, power button, volume buttons, game card, and charge port, and underneath the kickstand is the SD card slot. For specs, this has a custom system on a chip based on the NVIDIA Tegra X1. and which has 4 ARM Cortex A57 cores clocked at 1.2 gigahertz. The GPU is, of course, part of the same system on a chip. When undocked, it's clocked at 307 megahertz. When docked, it's at 768 megahertz. Docked. 4 gigabytes of RAM. The internal memory is 32 gigabytes, but you can expand the storage up to 2 terabytes. It has a 6.2 inch or 157.48 millimeter screen. Resolution when undocked is 1280 by 720, and the resolution when docked is up to 1920 by 1080 via HDMI. And the games that I have, this is physically, digital games will be in a separate video maybe. First game I got when I got the system is, of course, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. One of the more popular games of the system. I don't have any of the DLC, but I did unlock all the characters. I don't have any of the DLC for it. I got that at Target because I wanted to get it when I got this at Best Buy, but they didn't have a copy. And the next game I got is Mega Dimension Neptunia V2. One of my favorite games. I know the Switch port really isn't that good, but it is actually a pretty good game. I love it. Yeah. One of my favorite games for the Switch and one of my favorite Neptunia games. And finally, for physical Switch games I have is Persona 5 Royal. Yeah. Currently playing through this again. Yeah. I remember when I got this. I got this just 4 days after it came out. It came out on October 21st, 2022. And I got it on October 25th. I forgot to mention, I ordered this the day before Thanksgiving 2020, and it arrived just about a week or two before Christmas, so it was an early Christmas gift. Yeah. I've beaten it 3 times already. Yeah. So I've yet to complete this, but yeah, here are my physical Switch games and my Switch. Let's go on to the final system. The next system I have is one that I've already shown on the channel before, which I'll link up in a card right there, is the Sega Dreamcast, of course. If you haven't seen my video, I recommend that you go check it out. But in case if you haven't, for quick specifications, this has its CPU is a Hitachi SH4 clocked at 200 megahertz. Its GPU is an NEC PowerVR CLX2 clocked at 100 megahertz. It has 16 gigabytes of RAM, 8 of which is for 8 megabytes of video RAM. Its video output is through composite, RF, S-Video, and VGA via an adapter. HDMI is available via third-party adapters. And its firmware is based on Windows CE 2.0, which kind of, some games took advantage of it, but it's not really based on Windows CE outright. Its primary storage medium, of course, is GD-ROM. This is the drive, power, open, the button to open the drive, the indicator light when you turn it on, 4 controller ports. This is the modem and this is the fan. Now on the back is, it's the phone jack for the, just put in the phone cord in the modem. AV out, serial, and here's where you put the power cord. And why I call it Uzume, of course, is because of Neptunia. I already mentioned it in the video, but if you want to see more of this console in action, I recommend you check out the video. And I've already showed off the games in the video, but I'll show it to you all again. This is the official Sega Dreamcast magazine demo disc from September 2000, Volume 7. I played a little bit of this in that video. Here's Armada, which is one of the games that uses Windows CE. Yeah. It's a little bit scratchy, I might get it resurfaced, but it's actually a pretty fun strategy game with spaceships. Here's Jet Set Radio. One of the more popular games on the system, does not need an introduction. Heard that Bomb Rush Cyberfunk came out recently, so I might check it out. If you like Jet Set Radio, you might want to check it out. Here's Space Channel 5, another popular title that does not need an introduction. I'm not good at rhythm games. It's the disc, the manual, and it has the original warranty card in it. Here's Test Drive Le Mans 24 Hours, a racing game, of course. I'm not good at racing games, but I randomly picked it up. It's the disc and the manual. Here's the Dreamcast web browser 2.0. I thought about doing a DreamPi setup because I still have my Raspberry Pi 0W somewhere. It's in a box somewhere, but might show that off in a future video. Oh, if any of you are interested. And the last game, this is the newest addition to my collection, is Sega Rally 2. Another racing game. Yeah. Game in the manual. So, that is all the consoles that I have so far. Mostly Nintendo, one Sega, one by Leapfrog. I was younger back then. So that's pretty much it. And I have a few bonus things in my collection that are related to gaming. Here is the physical copy of Mirror's Edge Catalyst. I know. I actually didn't think this game was that bad. I replayed it last year and it was actually pretty good. This is a download only, there's no disc in it, but I got it for the sake of this collection and the fact that I didn't want to use Origin. But that's pretty much the only physical PC game I have that's in a case. And another thing I have some manuals for some games. I have the manual to Sid Meier's Alpha Centauri. This is one of my dad and I's favorite strategy games. It's on GOG if you want to pick it up. It's a classic, and I actually played a little bit of it in my video of me testing out games on my graphics card. And here is the manual to Civilization 3 Gold Edition. Yeah, still have the manuals for these, but the discs are long gone. And then the newest manual I have is for Civilization 4. I remember when my dad got this back in 2005 when it came out, and on the back is an ad for the remake of Sid Meier's Pirates. This one is Civilization Conquest, which is a spin-off of Civ. So that's some of the manuals I have. Oh, and one more. I have the original operations manual, channels and settings, for the Wii. Yeah, we kept all the manuals, but we got rid of the box. So, yeah. That is my entire video game collection. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and more videos will be coming soon, so stay tuned, and I thank you all for watching.